26% on the nation report part that the percentage you below for 12th grader for the sub-fraction in math. In America, we had everything as an exceptional country, but the 26% sound exceptional to you. Raise your hand if you think as the country we need to do way better than that. I am with you. We all need math for why are so many kids confused by it. It's because only 26% of people are hardwired from that. Love 70% or not, after working with thousands of kids, I can tell you this is the case at all. Kids don't understand math because we've been teaching it at the humanized subject. But if we make math human again, it would start to make sense again. You're probably wondering how is math in every human in the first place, so think about it. Math is a human language just like English, Spanish, and Chinese because it allows people to communicate with each other. Even in ancient time, people need the language of math to conduct trade, to build a monument, and to measure the land for farming. This idea of math, the language, isn't exactly new. A great philosopher once said, "The laws of nature are written in the language of mathematics." So you see, even Galileo agreed, isn't it? But somewhere along the line, we're taking the language of math with about the real world around us, and we abstract that beyond this recognition, and that's why kids they get confused. See this third grade Californian math standard, and people make sense when 8 years old. Understand the fraction 1 over b as the quantity formed by one part when a whole is partitioned into b equal parts. Understand a fraction a over b as the quantity formed by a parts of size 1 over b. And if you gave this description to an 8-year, you probably get reaction like this. To a math expert, this standard makes sense. But to a kid, it's an absolute torture. I tell this example specifically because the fractions are the foundational to algebra, trigonometry, and even calculus. So kids don't understand fraction in the elementary middle school because it had half roadway to ahead them in the high school. But there's a way to make subtraction simple and easy for kids to understand. Yes, just remember that math is the language and use that the fear they make. For example, when I teach first grader how to add the subtraction, I start with the apple plus lesson. First say yes, one apple plus one apple, and people often say two with the partly correct. Half them include the word as well as with the math of the language. But not just two, it's two apples. Next is three pencils plus three pencils. You are all know that pencils plus pencil is pencils. So everyone, how many pencils? 5 pencils is right. And the key is you included the word. I try to submit with my 5-year-old niece in the month. After she's added pencils and pencils, I asked her what 4 billion plus 1 billion. And my aunt overheard in the distance. She scolded and said, "Are you crazy? She's been kindergarten. How she's supposed to know 4 billion plus 1 billion? I'm done it." My niece Vanessa counting looks up and says, 5 billion. And I said that it's like it's 5 billion. My aunt stood ahead on that because she didn't expect that from the 5-year, but all you have to do is take a language approach and math become into it and easy to understand. Then I asked her a question that kindergarten definitely not supposed to know. Plus 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3, and she immediately answered 3 over 3, such as you are wondering how can she possibly know that when she doesn't know about the numerator and denominator yet. You see, she wasn't thinking about numerator and denominator. She solved the problem this way, and she used 1 apple plus 1 apple as her analogy to understand 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3. So even a kindergartner can add subtraction. You'd better believe that every third grader every third grader can do it as well.
Just for fun, I ask here an algebra question. What's 7x squared plus 2x squared? And then the 5 years correctly 9x squared. And see it in an exponent rules to figure that it's out. So when the people say that we are either real or not, it's not true, but it's human language. So we have all the ability to understand this. We need to take a low approach to math urgently, because too many kids are all hooked, and they are action about math, and it doesn't have to be the way. I walked with an angry, frustrated high school student and who called it past the algebra, because she is only clear 44% of the multiplication text. I've told her that such a kind of word only knowing the 45% of the alphabet, holding me back. She couldn't pass her or public relation, and she had no confidence in that. As the result, this teenager had confidence in herself. I felt to her, we have to start with the multiplication, because one time all of you have with your part, everything gets easier and they will be having a fastback every happy rate in this line. What do you think? And she said okay, but she systematically learned the timetable in 4 weeks. And yes, even a multiplication has the language in the better than that. You will be surprised how many kids don't realize 7x3 can be spelled out as 7x3. Why? Which just means 3 7 times, just like that. So when you can see the way, they quickly realize that the repetition is slow and inconvenient. So they grab the memory that 3 7x all the way to the 21. The further figure walks out tricks to dropping out, becoming fluent and confident in multiplication with the game's character. Because for the first time, we can focus on the problem solving instead of counting on the finger. I now sit in a corner. When she has figured out that your colleague at $4,055 amount while you call you $10,680. And she is looking at me disapprovingly and said, "It's a poly socks. That's expensive." At this moment, not having one causing problem for her, but she likes giving a math solving problem as the reason to order. As an educator, it's my duty to challenge kids to be thoroughly with this challenge. Our country took at 26% subtraction, and I challenge you to pass the number higher.